From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
A double whammy after storms tear through a South Dakota dairy. Markets nosedive.
It really felt like just a big risk-off trade to end the month today, and it just spilled over from one market into the next.
An update on what led to Tuesday's big sell-off. As farmers continue to fight drought, rain, and even snow to plant a crop, the latest report from the field right now on AgDay. Good morning and welcome to AgDay. I'm Michelle Rook in for Clinton, who's on vacation. After a tremendous planting progress last week, all eyes were on this week's USDA crop progress report to see if we could get a crop in ahead of wheat and soybean planting deadlines. And now they've almost caught up to the average. USDA reporting 86% of the corn crop is now planted. That's up 14% from last week and just 1% behind the 5-year average. North Dakota farmers pressing on. Now 56% planted, up 36% from last week, and Minnesota now at 82%. Checking soybeans, 66% of the crop is now planted. That's up 16% from last week and also just 1% behind the 5-year average. However, just 23% of the crop is planted in North Dakota. 55% is now planted in Minnesota. Spring wheat planting is still continuing to run well off of the pace, with 73% now seeded. Usually, farmers would be approaching the finish line now at 92%. As some farmers face the very real possibility of prevent plant this year, USDA's Farm Service Agency is announcing the first phase of the Emergency Relief Program, or ERP. Approximately 220,000 crop producers hit by natural disasters in 2020 and 2021 are receiving disaster payments to offset yield and value losses. This first phase of ERP includes $6 billion. FSA Administrator Zach Ducheneau tells me they're using a streamlined payment process to decrease the paperwork burden experienced with other ad hoc disaster programs.
So we decided to partner with our sister agency, the RMA, get available information, and in phase one, we used crop insurance data. Our goal was to serve as many producers as we can and get that done with as low a burden as we can on the producers and on our staff.
He tells me phase 2 will be rolled out later this summer. Right now, FSA is identifying eligible disaster events that weren't previously covered or indemnified by crop insurance or NAP. There will also be a phase 2 for livestock producers. The rain gauges in the Dakotas and Minnesota have been working overtime lately. This photo shared by a farmer in north central South Dakota, where you can see a lake that is formed off in the distance where there should be a field. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us, and Matt, farmers in those states could really use a break from the moisture.
Yeah, Michelle, they really do need a break there in the upper Midwest, northern plains as well. They're going to get one behind that cold front that's moving across the country. We get some sunshine, high pressure moves back in, and cooler temperatures as well. Let's take a look, though, at the next 10 days, because a lot of rain is expected over the next 10 days across the United States. And we're expecting to see it from the central plains to the east, and then eventually another system comes in for the northern plains and the upper Midwest. But that happens as we head through the weekend and into next week. So a couple of dry days out there. But here's a look at that cold front that's continuing to push eastward, moving through Missouri and Oklahoma today, and then continuing to move east. As it does, the skies clear out behind it. We get that cooler air. We've had temperatures in the 80s and 90s with high humidity. All of that changes behind that cold front. And a place that's going to see a big change is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 89 degrees on Wednesday, dropping into the mid-70s by Thursday and Friday. And after those showers and storm chances move on out by Thursday afternoon, lots of sunshine heading into the weekend. It's going to be a very nice and cool weekend, so something to look forward to there in Pittsburgh. And check out Wyoming. KT says they got over a foot of snow over the holiday weekend. That caused a power outage, and when they posted this on Monday, they had already been without power for almost 12 hours. The northwest part of the state seeing more than 3 feet of snow in some areas. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Gas prices hitting another record here in the U.S. on Tuesday. AAA reporting the average price for a gallon of regular unleaded now sits at $4.62. That's up 3 cents from last week and up 45 cents from the previous month. It's now up $1.58 from the same time last year. Diesel is down about 2 cents from last week at $5.52 a gallon. The increase in prices at the pump follows a move by the European Union to block the majority of oil imports from Russia. The EU agreement paves the way for a sixth package of sanctions to punish Russia for the invasion of Ukraine. The sanctions would forbid the purchase of crude oil and petroleum products from Russia delivered to member states by sea, but includes a temporary exemption for pipeline crude until a solution is found that satisfies the energy needs of Hungary and other landlocked nations.
Certainly, we cannot prevent Russia to sell their oil to someone else. We are not so powerful, but we are the most important client for Russia. They will have to look for another one, and certainly they will have to decrease the price. The purpose is for the Russians to get less resources, less financial resources to feed in the war machine, and this certainly will happen.
Bloomberg calculates the decision will cost Russia up to $10 billion a year in lost export revenue and force Russia to sell its crude at a discount to Asia, where it's already changing hands at about $34 a barrel cheaper than the price of Brent futures. But it's not just oil prices being impacted by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Families across Africa are paying an estimated 45% more for wheat flour as the war blocks exports from the Black Sea. Some countries like Somalia get more than 90% of their wheat from Russia and Ukraine, and experts say that's forcing many people to substitute wheat with other grains. But the United Nations is warning price hikes are coming. Many parts of Africa are facing drought and hunger, with an estimated 13 million people facing severe hunger in the Horn of Africa alone. But wheat, corn, and soybeans all tumbled in trading on Tuesday on word Russia's foreign minister will come to Turkey later this month to discuss the potential for creating a safe pathway for Ukrainian ag exports. Reuters reporting talks were still underway with the UN to create a sea corridor from the Black Sea, one that would contain a joint observation mechanism to monitor the shipping route, and that Turkey was open to the idea. In exchange, Russia wants some Western sanctions targeting its insurance sector lifted. Ukraine says it does not want Russian warships near its docks in Odessa. Ukraine, meanwhile, is accusing Russia of stealing both grain and farm equipment. New satellite imagery shows a Russian freighter full of grain allegedly stolen from Ukrainian farms, arriving in the Syrian port of Latakia, its second trip within 4 weeks. The new images are provided by Maxar Technologies. This ship is one of 3 that have been loading grain into the Crimean port of Sevastopol since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It was last seen in Sevastopol on May 19th and subsequently tracked south along the Turkish coast. It's estimated the ship can carry about 30,000 tons of grain. We showed you last month convoys of trucks reportedly carrying grain from farms and silos in South Ukraine into Crimea. Ukrainian authorities estimated earlier this month Russian forces in occupied areas had seized more than 400,000 tons of grain. Several ag groups are urging the Biden administration to suspend, reduce, or eliminate several tariffs on Chinese goods coming into the U.S. The groups, including the National Pork Producers Council, sending a letter to U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai. The groups is part of Farmers for Free Trade, saying that rolling back Section 232 and 301 tariffs and eliminating retaliatory tariffs will increase market access for U.S. food and ag exports. They also argue canceling the tariffs will reduce the cost of critical machinery, fertilizer, chemicals, and other inputs. Tai's office announced early last month it would start a review of more than $370 billion in tariffs on Chinese goods. Still ahead, we have more on Tuesday's market slide that had steep losses in both the grain and livestock futures into the close. Plus, a dairy producer hit by a derecho earlier this month forced to send its cows to another nearby dairy. Now that dairy is cleaning up from severe storms.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Happening right now, more than 1,000 union workers at CNH industrial plants in Wisconsin and Iowa remain on strike. And the two sides still appear to be far apart on the issues. CNH Industrial releasing a statement saying the company presented the United Auto Workers with a document that it says addressed all open and outstanding issues. But it says the union declined to meet and indicated it would not allow its members to see the proposal. The UAW says in a statement the company has deployed a scab workforce that it assembled prior to the contract deadline. It added, quote, "It is in the hope of the company to starve out UAW members on the picket lines to accept an inadequate collective bargaining agreement," end quote. The strike began in early May. An ugly down day on Tuesday in both grain and livestock futures. Here to visit about that is Total Farm Marketing's John Heinberg. John, thanks for being with us. Tuesday was a tough day down, a big risk-off session in the commodities sector.
Yeah, it was an extremely difficult day in terms of some way the prices got pushed across the board. So we'll have to see how trade kind of kicks in here on Wednesday. And, we'll see if we get some recovery. Maybe a lot of that was tied to the end of the month yesterday on being the 31st. And, we'll see where the managed money wants to go and the money flow wants to go. So it was just, like I said, difficult day. Had a good start in a couple of those commodities. And we just saw things kind of roll over about the 9:30, 9:45 in the morning window. And sellers just took hold. So again, obviously we'll just see how trade goes tomorrow morning or on Wednesday morning.
So let's talk about technical damage. We did score new contract highs in soybeans for sure. That looks like a key reversal. Are you worried about any other markets?
Yeah, that soybean chart was the one that was probably the most disappointing overall in terms of its reversal off those highs. And, that's a pretty big sell signal when you go put a contract high in and then flip it over, especially be down as strongly as we were. So we'll have to watch what the money does there today with that position. Does the technical sellers continue to kick in? Even on corn markets too, we took out some nearby lows and that kind of opens the door for some more downside overall. And over in the livestock sector, watching what happens with June cattle and that low that we pushed in there, kind of taking out some of those bottom lows that we've been holding for weeks. And so that just makes us a little bit nervous that the money's got an easier path to go down, at least push this thing to start the day. So that'll be something that we'll have to focus on in the first part of trade this morning.
And looking at the Commitment Traders report, there has been some fund liquidation in parts of the commodity sector, but in particular corn, right?
Yeah, the corn market's really come off that long position, very much in time with what they did last year in this exact same window, seeing that seasonality possibly kicking in and the money moving to the sidelines, and then we'll have to figure out where we are with weather. So, with everything being talked about with acres and production and planning and everything going on in that regard, the fund's probably just starting to feel like maybe it's a spot to pull some money off the table until we get a better picture where the crop could be going into the later part or the main part of the summer.
Appreciate that analysis. Thanks so much for joining us. John Heinberg with Total Farm Marketing. More AgDay coming up.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779. It's time to sign up for the 2022 United Pork Americas Conference in Orlando, Florida. Register today at unitedporkamericas.com and join us September 7th through the 9th.
Back in with a look at our ag weather this morning. Matt Yurosavik is back, and let's talk about a nice change coming, pattern change that's going to be beneficial for a lot of areas.
Oh yeah, especially the upper Midwest where we saw a lot of rain, even some snow up in parts of Wyoming and into Montana, but now we've got clearer skies, drier conditions, hopefully get those planters rolling again. And that cold front comes along with showers and storm chances, and as they move eastward, so will the cooler air. But right now, a big ridge over the eastern United States, down in the south as well. That's bringing the heat, the humidity, temperatures in the 80s and 90s, very high humidity. But then as that cold front starts sweeping to the east, you can kind of see that cooler air filtering into the upper Midwest, to the northern Great Lakes there. That's going to keep things right around average for this time of the year. Meanwhile, still dealing with some of that warmth there. Lower humidity, though, back across the Rockies. Still warm and humid, though, across the Gulf Coast and down into Florida. And we will continue to see that warmth in the south and cooler air right across the north, staying dry as well, at least until we head into the early part of the weekend, especially for places up here in the Dakotas and Minnesota that have seen tons tons of rain over the past few days and the past week, really, before we'll see another storm system begin to move its way in to the west coast. So that's something that we'll continue to keep an eye on, but here's a look at those temperatures. Cold front right across the middle of the country. It'll continue to move eastward, and as it does, again, those temperatures will be going down just a bit. Still seeing the 80s and 90s across the east coast heading into tomorrow afternoon, but lower humidity back here. More sunshine, though, especially in those areas there in the upper Midwest. That is going to be good news. So as this cold front moves east, it also comes with the chance for some stronger storms. And you can see that threat moves eastward into the mid-Atlantic and down towards parts of Dallas and into parts of Tennessee heading into Thursday. Here's that cold front, high pressure out ahead of it, keeping things dry. The cold front right there, a couple of lows along it as well. That is going to bring that chance for showers and storms. And as it continues to move through the day on Thursday, high pressure replaces it, cooler, drier air, and also tons of sunshine as well. And precipitation going along with it, seeing those heavy pockets of rain. That is going to be possible. And we're watching the Gulf Coast for the chance for some tropical rains. We'll have more on that later on in the week. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Dansville, New York, heavy rain and thunderstorms, a high of 83 degrees. Canadian Texas, showers and thunderstorms, a high of 67 degrees. And Sacramento, California, sunny and hot, a high of 94.
Last month, we told you about a South Dakota dairy relocating 1,700 of its cows after suffering a direct hit from a derecho. Now the farm where those cows were taken is cleaning up from storm damage of its own. Take a look. Over Memorial Day weekend, a series of severe storms brought strong winds, heavy rain, and hail to Victory Farms in Millbank. The owners say no cows or people were injured, but as you can see, there was some damage. They say their shop and one calf barn are complete losses. They add that on May 12th, they moved cattle onto their place to help another farmer who got hit and lost their parlor, and that they're thankful for their employees that are helping them pick up the pieces. Adding, quote, dairy farmers have a special bond, and no matter how near or far, a hand is always available to help out. Milk groups say they welcome USDA's plan to offer additional support to American ag exporters through the new Commodity Container Assistance Program. The initiative will provide funding from the Farm Service Agency to exporters to reduce the cost of sourcing containers at the Oakland and Seattle-Tacoma pop-up port locations. The National Milk Producers Federation and the U.S. Dairy Export Council saying dairy producers and other ag exporters have been clamoring for relief from the ocean shipping supply chain crunch. The so-called pop-up sites, like the ones in California and Washington State, were set up to help deal with empty container storage issues. The FSA payments will help cover the cost of moving the containers between the ports and pop-up yards, along with the storage at the pop-up site. Still ahead, beating the heat while still out in the field. Some helpful advice on staying hydrated in the country. Summer is not technically started, but for many, the thermometer says it has already arrived. Craig Grotrow reports from Louisiana on the ways farmers can stay properly hydrated in the heat.
The calendar says May, but temperatures for many in the U.S. feel like late June and the throes of summer. Working in the sun or simply exercising in this heat can wear down anyone. That's why it's important to recognize the symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
If you are getting overheated, if you're getting towards heat exhaustion, you may feel a bit dizzy, you may have excessive sweating, excessive fatigue. You want to slow down, get to a cooler area, at least shade, preferably inside with some AC.
Heat stroke is a much more dangerous condition, and according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, leads to nearly 700 deaths a year.
Confusion is a sign of heat stroke. So you've got dizziness, and then the confusion element, you need to seek emergency medical attention now.
Drinking fluids during the day is important to staying properly hydrated, but Stroop says you need to drink fluids from the very beginning.
In Louisiana, when you wake up in the morning, you're actually starting at a deficit with your hydration, so you want to drink water first thing, have your coffee, sure, but drink some water before you go out in the heat.
Stroop also says there are foods commonly grown in Louisiana that can help you survive the summer heat.
Eat some Louisiana fruits that are in season. You know, pick up some watermelon. You're going to get, you know, some great natural sugars as well as being hydrated. Eat some blueberries.
Sports drinks can provide some nutrients that are lost during heavy sweating, but water should make up the majority of your fluid intake. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Otro reporting.
Thanks, Craig. That's all the time that we have for this morning. Thanks for watching. For all of us here at AgDay, have yourself a great day.